Hello everyone, welcome back. This week we're going to talk about special occasion speeches. So this, of course, is our last speech that we will be delivering this semester. And all of this information is rooted in chapter 25 of your textbook. So if you want a little bit more of a comprehensive overview, I suggest checking that out after watching this video. So today, first, we're going to talk specifically about the assignment itself. I'm going to give you all the details you need to be successful for this last special occasion speech. And then we're going to dive into a little bit more of the material of how to construct an effective special occasion speech and how to deliver one in certain contexts. So, our last speech, the special occasion speech, is going to be a tribute speech, which we'll talk about a little later is a specific type of special occasion speech. So this last speech is worth a little bit less than some other speeches. It's worth 100% of our overall 1,000 points available in the course. And all of the details that I'm about to go over can be found in your supplemental course packet, which goes through the pages of 41 through 49. So 41 really details the whole assignment, and then you can look through at the rubric there also. So due dates for this have been posted on those updated course schedules that we have sent out. If your lab section normally met on Tuesdays and Thursdays, your special occasion speech will be due Thursday, April 30th. And if your lab sections met on Mondays and Fridays, it will be due Friday, May 1st. For everyone, it'll be due at 11:59 p.m. that corresponding day, uploaded to Acclaim. This speech also is a little bit shorter. It's between 2 and 4 minutes, so make sure you're practicing your timing with that. Now let's get down to the topic. So again, like I mentioned, this is a speech of tribute. So you will be giving a speech praising someone, or not necessarily, but something that you admire, appreciate, or respect. So you're going to introduce this person and talk about why this person is worthy of our praise and your praise. So what's really fun about this speech is this person can be fictional or real, alive or dead. So I've had people do anywhere from SpongeBob SquarePants to Abraham Lincoln. So you can pick someone, but it has to be a public figure that nearly everyone in the class would recognize. So basically, it would have to be a famous person or character. It's okay if not everyone in the class knows that person because there are so many sports figures that I wouldn't recognize, but they're still famous. If you have a specific question about this person, I would reach out to your lab instructor to make sure you clear it with them. So, to talk a little bit more about this speech, there are no sources that are actually required for this speech, but if you include information that you looked up and cite, of course it needs to be orally cited and put on your works cited page. Additionally, like it has been for the rest of these speeches, a typed full sentence outline is still due in the exact same format that we've done for the last 2 speeches. And this time it will just be uploaded to your folder in Acclaim along with your video. And also, there is no visual aid for this speech. So a little bit more into the in-depth requirements of this content-wise is make sure that this speech is not a speech just telling us about their life. It's not a biography speech. You want to talk, again, focus on why this person is worthy of praise. Focus more on their personality. What kind of accomplishments have they had? Have they benefited the community in any way? So think about how you want to organize this speech, since organization is still super important, and maybe you want to break it up into 3 different achievements that they've had, or 3 different things that they have done to help the community, or even 3 different aspects of their personality. You can definitely mix and match those, but make sure it's cohesive and organized just like all of our other speeches. You want to make sure that you're super creative in this speech. You can tell stories, definitely use narratives. I've had students pretend that they know this person so they can talk about them more casually a little bit. And so if you want to pretend that you know this person, you can do that as well. Get really creative with it. I also had a student, which may not be for everyone, give their speech entirely in an accent for Game of Thrones, right? So make sure that you get creative, have figures of speech, everything that we talked about in chapter 15 with the style of a speech. So go back and look at that PowerPoint or that lecture video to make sure you have all of those components. So a couple of things you'll be graded on, and of course you have your rubric available to you so you can look at that as well. But you will be assessed over audience analysis. How well are you still connecting with your audience, making it relevant to them? This goes a long way with topic selection too. Are you appealing to your audience with someone that's likable and that we know? Like I already mentioned, make sure that your speech is still organized. We still need all of the components of the introduction, of the conclusion, of the body. We need those transition words. Everything like that stays the same. And I know we're in a mediated space, but we still need to focus on delivery. So make sure that you have a really natural and enthusiastic tone. Make sure that you still have gestures and are making eye contact with either the audience members there or your camera. And make sure, again, your language is powerful. You want to still elicit emotion within your audience because you're giving tribute to someone that you respect and admire. And don't forget all of our rhetorical appeals that we've talked about. So appealing to not only emotion, but logic and your own credibility as well. Okay, so now that we've talked about the assignment more specifically, and again, if you have questions, please make sure you reach out to your lab instructor or Dr. Langford with any questions on specifics. We're going to jump into chapter 25, which talks more in depth about what a special occasion speech is. So special occasion speaking is also known as epideictic rhetoric or oratory. So this goes all the way back to Aristotle, who we've talked about a lot this semester. But epideictic rhetoric really talks about either praising or blaming someone. And again, for our speech, we're going to focus on the praising side of that. So there are different goals that epideictic oratory or special occasion speaking can have. Different goals can be to entertain. So comedians obviously are not speaking for necessarily a specific persuasion or training and briefing. They are there to entertain, and so that is their goal in epideictic oratory. It can also be to celebrate. So again, at a wedding, when you give a toast, that's a type of special occasion speaking that we're going to talk about, and you're there to celebrate the couple. There's also to commemorate. So if you're commemorating an event, maybe something historical is happening and there's a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting, you can commemorate that event with a special occasion speech as well. And then to inspire. Motivational speakers do this all the time. Their goal of their special occasion speech is to inspire their audience members to either be a better version of themselves or take action in some way. And then finally, there is to set a social agenda. So politicians do this all the time. They really want to set their agenda. They're still, again, speaking in an epideictic way, in a special occasion speaking type of way. But their goal is different than to entertain, for example. And this is not an exhaustive list. There can be definitely other scenarios where you're giving a special occasion speech, but these are some of the basic goals that we are going to cover. So when you're asked to give a special occasion speech, and a lot of us, if not all of us, will be in our lifetime, there are certain things you need to do to prep for that, obviously. You definitely want your goal to be clear. We just talked about all of those goals, but if your goal and the goal of the organization or the audience is something completely different, that would be bad. So you want to make sure that you're on the same page and that your goal is consistent with the goal of the event that you're going to. You also want to analyze your audience. We kind of already talked about this, but make sure you're still being inclusive of all of the different views that are there, and you're not, cracking only inside jokes and things like that with specific or few people. You want to make sure that it's relevant to your audience. Your audience thinks it's funny and current and all of that. You also, of course, want to outline your speech, as always. It's really good to have an organizational structure and plan. You don't necessarily want to wing it. Even if it's a toast at your best friend's wedding, probably best to outline it. And we've given you those tools in this class so you can be prepared. And then also, finally, you need to rehearse and revise. So practice in front of some friends who maybe are going to the event or know about the event, and make sure your tone, again, matches the content of the event, and your delivery is, again, enthusiastic, but maybe enthusiastic in different ways for different types of events. So, for tributes and eulogies and commemorative speeches, this is kind of a grouping that we put together that has a specific kind of requirement for the special occasion speech that you're giving. You want to reflect the emotions felt by the audience. So again, for something like a eulogy, you want to be very aware that the audience is probably grieving in some way. And so you can reflect those emotions and comfort those emotions, and you can try and maybe lift up the audience in some way. That's a very specific type of special occasion speech. But also, in a tribute speech like the one we're giving in this class, you also want to reflect on the emotions of the audience, whether that be, we think this person's hilarious, you want to reflect that in your speech. If this person's well admired and respected, generally you want to reflect on those as well. Special occasion speeches are meant to be brief. That's why we made the requirement for this speech only between 2 and 4 minutes, because nobody wants to listen, let's say, to an acceptance speech that goes on for 10 minutes. That's why they have the music that gets people off the stage at the Oscars. So make sure that you're being brief and choosing words that are powerful and not adding a lot of unnecessary words in there. You want to be positive, right? So even in a eulogy at a funeral, you still want to uplift, but you can balance that with being realistic, right? So make sure, again, you analyze your audience, you analyze the situation that's going on, and you reflect on those emotions. Just basically, this means to be really cognizant of what's going on, but you don't want to be hyperbolic, right? So in a tribute speech, if someone's not the best person that ever lived, you don't necessarily need to say that either. Make sure you're sharing appropriate stories. Don't be that best man at a wedding that says something inappropriate, or in a eulogy especially. Make sure that, again, you're analyzing everyone in the room. Grandma doesn't necessarily want to hear that. You also want to acknowledge family, friends, acknowledge people that are there about the person that you're speaking of. So down here in the PowerPoint that will be attached on Blackboard is a really good example of this type of speech. President Obama is paying tribute to a certain specific veteran that has done incredible things. And so if you have some time, and I really highly suggest you do this, is you can watch this little short clip, so 9:27 to 12:18, of this video of President Obama, and that's just a really good example of what we're talking about with this type of speech. Okay, moving on, another really specific type of special occasion speech are toasts. So even if you don't necessarily give an acceptance speech in our lifetime, we may definitely be giving a toast at a wedding or something like that. So here are some tips for how to plan that and how to do that as well. You definitely want to identify yourself and your role. So who are you? Like, even if it's a toast for your boss, make sure that you indicate yourself as, their assistant or an employee under them or something like that. But make sure, again, it's brief. You don't want this speech to be about you, but you want people to know who you are in your relationship to the person you're giving a toast for. If it's a wedding toast, you definitely want to highlight the positive traits of the couple or the person. If it's not a wedding, you definitely want to, again, stay positive. You don't necessarily have to be as somber in a wedding toast as you would be for a eulogy. So make sure that you talk about the qualities that make them special and important to you. Also, it's a really good idea to include stories that are, again, relevant to the occasion, uplifting and not embarrassing. Quotes from this person that are maybe inspirational or uplifting. Those can be really good ideas to make the audience captivated by you. People really like listening to short stories and toasts. And if it's a couple, even if you only know really one member of the couple, make sure that you address both people, because if you're celebrating a union of two people, you want to make sure that you address them both and speak to their relationship. Continuing with toasts, when you start to wrap up, and again, keep it brief, make sure you address the couple, or if it's just one person directly, thank them, express your hopes for them, your best wishes for them. You definitely just don't want to stop abruptly. This is a really good way to close a toast. And then, of course, it's a toast, so you will ask the audience to raise their glasses, your final closing. So for speeches of acceptance, and don't count yourself out for this, we may all receive an award of some kind or a scholarship that you will have to give a speech of acceptance for, even if it's not at the Oscars, but I bet some of you will be someday. You still definitely need to prepare, even if you don't necessarily think you might win. You don't want to be the person that's totally flustered. You want to be calm, cool, and collected, and very reflexive of yourself in the same way. So you want to react genuinely. Again, be humble in this, be confident, be cool, be prepared as well. So when you're giving a speech of acceptance, you want to talk about what this award truly means to you. Again, try to avoid the cheese here, but be genuine with a little bit about your journey to get there. What does it mean for you to receive, if you were an actor, an Oscar? It's one of the highest honors you can get. So talk about what that means to you as an individual. And then, of course, you want to thank people that are giving you the award. You don't want to leave anybody out, which is why preparation is important. Make sure that all the important people get put in there and are thanked. And then thank others who have helped you as well along the way. A lot of times in acceptance speeches, people thank their families for supporting them along the way, or their friends. So make sure that you include those components as well. So at the bottom here, I also linked another video. This is Leonardo DiCaprio finally winning his first Oscar, and it has a bunch of stuff at the beginning. So you can start at minute 2 to see him give that speech, and it's a good example of humility, of giving a speech of acceptance. So I implore you to watch that as well. Okay, here is your attendance question for today. Who gave your favorite acceptance speech at the Oscars over the years? Okay, well that basically wraps up special occasion speeches. Remember that you will be giving a speech of tribute to a person or character that deserves our praise and your praise. Talk about what makes them special, their specific personality. Don't just give us an overview of their life. Don't just tell us where they're born and where they grew up. Don't be a Wikipedia page. Make sure to really convince us, not necessarily convince, but inspire us to want to pay tribute to this person as well. So, thank y'all, and if you have any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to reach out to your lab instructor, to Dr. Lankford, or myself. I hope you have a great day.